So Macklemore was dropped from Vegas Music Festival after controversial comments at pro-Palestinian concert.
Did he say F America?
So he performed his song Hind's Hall. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's a pro-Palestinian song. It went super kind of crazy viral.
Yes.
Hind's Hall praises the anti-Israel protests that took place on college campuses, is what this says. Throughout the last academic year, the title references Hamilton Hall, a Columbia University academic building which protesters barricaded themselves into in April against, the genocide that is happening in Palestine. The sentiments F America here are in relation to America's support of Israel as Israel commits genocide. And so when Macklemore says F America, it's saying F what America is doing right now and their participation in this. Guys got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it could be taken a certain way because he didn't complete the statement. And you already know how people are going to twist things regardless. So if he's saying...
Especially during this election cycle.
F America. As an American, I can't say that I would say that myself. F America. Although there are some organizations and some Americans that are supporting what Israel is doing to Palestine, it's not everybody as a whole. It's not America as a whole.
I would push back on that. And I would push back because when you say F America, you're not saying F citizens. Like, you're not saying American citizens. You're saying
the power establishment.
The establishment of America and the American government, and both the Democrats and Republicans party are pro-Israel. They're anti that. So it's like, that's what he's saying there. So to me, I mean, he's not saying like, screw Americans. He's like, no, the establishment of America is supporting this genocide.
Man,
so.
As a black man, I mean, I can't say I don't feel the same way that he does sometimes. You know what I mean? As a black man in America, I share that same sentiment. You know what I mean? But I just got back from out of the country like a couple of weeks ago, man, and it gave me a whole new appreciation for being here. You know what I mean? Living here.
Yeah, it will wake you up when you go somewhere else.
Yeah, so I definitely have an appreciation for being an American, but at the same time, like the politics and things that go on here, man, I understand why somebody would say something like that. Yeah. Would I say something like that on that grand of a stage when my livelihood is tied to it? I don't know if I would do that, but
I don't know. Yeah.
It's easy for that to be misinterpreted, though.
Yes, that's the thing.
Because if he just said that's a blanket statement, at the end of the day, somebody else has to explain that when you say F America, I'm not saying F the citizens, F everybody that's in America. I'm saying F the actual system, the government. You have to be specific because people are going to lead with what they want to lead with.
For sure.
That.
But what and it's not a one-on-one comparison, but it's just like Black Lives Matter, and you have to explain that to white people that it doesn't mean that only Black Lives matter. It's just like, we're just saying that this matters over here, and I feel like that's really the sentiment too. And sometimes when you make statements like this, what happens is people actually do talk about it. You
got to be clear and concise when you say stuff like that too, though, because that can easily be misconstrued. You know what I mean? So, but at the same time, like, he's doing this specifically at a concert for these people that are here. Right after he does a song called Hind's Hall, which is about being pro-Palestinian and anti-genocide. So it's like,
he's standing on business then.
The headline don't say that, though.
The headline doesn't say that. No.
Some people are probably gonna be upset when I take this angle, and that's fine because that's what we do here. We don't have any political connects. No, we don't have any industry connects. But I mean, that's how good it is to be a white man. And be able to say things like this. And quite honestly, I don't think his career is affected in the short term, but it won't be in the long term.
That's real.
I mean,
well,
Colin Kaepernick.
It is Israel. It's different.
Colin Kaepernick said, hey, police need to do better, essentially, and I'm kneeling on behalf of that. And he didn't play football ever again. Yeah. If you really break down what he said and how he could have articulated it better. Colin Kaepernick, to me, like I said, I supported him and I understood where he was coming from, but he partly. Did you ever have a friend in high school or maybe college or just maybe in your adult life who turned his life over to the Lord? And like they was just really gung-ho about it, and like sometimes maybe they might have said like you might have been just doing something in your regular day. It was like, you going to hell. It's like, hey, calm down, Chief. I felt like that's kind of how Colin Kaepernick was when he discovered a real ultra level of blackness and anti-establishment. You know, like I could understand where he said, okay, he was going to, you know, sit down for the national anthem. Then somebody pulled him to the side, you know, and said, hey, kneeling would be more respectful. And that came from somebody who was in the military. Of course.
Well, apparently he asked them.
Yeah.
Like he was the one that was proactive about that.
But once again, we talked about in previous shows about how people don't ask follow-up questions.
Right.
And, you know, if you wanted to talk to Colin or, you know, even the person that he spoke to who was in the military, you'd be interested in follow-up questions. But when you were just interested in what you thought was disrespect to the military.
The witch hunt.
Exactly. You know, and then, you know, you get into like wearing the pig socks, and I'm like, all right, man, I get where your sentiment comes from.
It was kind of performative. It got performative at a certain point, especially when they offered him a chance to get back in the NFL and do the workout, and then he moved the location
and showed up with a 𝐀𝐿 shirt. I was like,
that kind of was the straw that I was like, okay, I'm cool on this.
But I
situation.
mean, but you know, that's, you know, not to just, you know, too much on Colin Kaepernick, but I just feel like, okay, Macklemore has the complexion to go ahead and make these statements, because if you notice, what rapper, mainstream or underground, has said anything about what's going on in Palestine? I mean, other than maybe like Immortal Technique,
yeah, some underground people,
you know,
sure,
or you know, and it's so hard because once again, I talk about follow-up questions because it's like people are like, oh, well, what about Hamas? And then when I try to explain, well, Hamas is not in the West Bank. And then when I say there's a difference between Zionism and anti-Semitic, it's so layered, and people just want to move in black and white. Yeah. And it's so hard to have these conversations with people who don't like do any research. They just, and mind you, there's things that I don't know. I find out that new things every single day, but all I know is when I look at, you know, the video that is somehow snuck out and what they're doing, you know, this is, you know, Benjamin Netanyahu is not going to, history is not going to favorably look upon him because these are war crimes at this point.
No, they've been war crimes.
You know,
well, the stuff that's happened in Lebanon, the cell phones blowing up in people's hands. Like, so
it's to the point, but once again, getting back
peepers or whatever they were
to Macklemore. Like I said, I think if he's black, he doesn't beat Kendrick at the Grammys. But if he's black, he's not able. This would be the end of his career.
You think?
I don't think so, because we had an individual by the name of Muhammad Ali that kind of took the same stance, and it didn't end him. Now, he did do a bid and came out.
Took away his prime years, though.
But he at the end of the day, he's still the greatest, Muhammad Ali. Yeah. He came out and still represented, but it did not kill him to the point where he couldn't be seen. It actually made him a bigger person.
Mm-hmm. Made him a martyr.
Yeah.
Same way that it did Colin Kaepernick, though.
Well, Colin Kaepernick is different because Colin Kaepernick, to his point, the follow-up question, he didn't have a follow-up answer. Okay. Muhammad Ali did.
Muhammad Ali was, you know, is you know, for all of the, you know, everybody was like, yeah, I support Colin. Doug, why don't you? We need to hear from you. Yeah. We don't need to hear from your girlfriend. We don't need to hear from people you know. Mm-hmm. We needed to hear from you.
Yeah.
And I just, like I said, I know this is where what I'm saying is tad controversial, is going to have people feeling some type of way. But, you know, I don't feel like this will hurt Macklemore like it would a mainstream African-American reporter, you know, anybody who's not white.
I don't know.
Now, mind you, like when
it's a little different, though.
It might. Now, mind you, I don't know. In the next 5 years, public sentiment might turn around, and everybody be like, "Wow, we really missed on that one. How did we let this go on?" But it's just so hard when you see that like nobody on either side of the aisle really wants to take this on.
I think that's my point, though. I think that specifically is my point. Is that the difference with, like, when you talk about Colin Kaepernick and Black Lives Matter? At least liberals and the Democrats like to pretend that they care to an extent, right? Mm-hmm. With the Israeli situation and the Palestinian situation, both Democrats and Republicans are one and the same. And you see it with, like, across the board, to where Democrats are even, like, when Rashida Tlaib comes out and says stuff, or any of the what they call the women, the crew, or what you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly.
They call them something, right?
They have a name for, but that included Cori Bush, who AIPAC got rid of.
Yeah. But my point is like, outside of like a handful of small, you know, like actual progressives, both parties are pushing back in the silence is like to silence him is pretty serious. So I wouldn't be surprised. Like this is the one thing that I think a white man could potentially do that could potentially get him somewhat canceled is be anti-Israeli or appear anti-Israeli, not anti-Jewish, anti-Israel.
That's so hard for people to figure out.
And to be pro-Palestinian, to not want them to be, killed. I think that's the one thing that potentially, I feel like that's a little bit of nuance there that I think is a little bit different. But obviously he still has, white privilege in America and all that other stuff. But I feel like it's a little bit different when we talk about the Israeli and Palestine thing. So,
well, yeah, I mean, I was talking to, I can't remember, I think I was talking to somebody in my family about what could really hurt Kamala on election day. And I said, when you watch the Democratic National Convention, everybody, they brought out the black contingent, they brought out the Hispanics, they brought out the gays, but who did they not bring out? They did not bring out the Middle Eastern Arab community. They had basically no say so because they would have been called to the carpet on being,
anti-Semitic,
for rolling. Yeah. So,
quote unquote.
Kamala's going to need Michigan to win. And what people forget is there's a large Arabic, Middle Eastern community. And it's not even if they vote for Trump, it's just that they stay home. If they say, look, neither one of these parties are for me, they're not addressing anything that I feel is important. I got people over there, that could very much hurt. I'm looking at the map and I'm like, Donald Trump is going to be president again.
I don't think so at all.
Yeah,
between Georgia,
I said it. I think
it's a wash.
I did say that.
She may not get to 271
before Kamala was the one being the nomination for the Democratic Party. I did say that Trump would win this next election. Now I think it's going to be up in the air. I can't definitively say either one of them are going to win this election.
I pretty strongly feel like Donald Trump is self-imploding right now for his own base. Even maybe not this. The MAGAs they're a cult. They're going to be whatever they're going to be. But the conservatives, he's imploding, and it's.
I don't think
I've
so,
witnessed
though,
it.
man. I think even
they
though
don't care.
They don't care. They want to have they want a Republican in office, and if that's their only option, they gonna put him in office.
Look, the fact that the
conservatives, yes, but the moderates, I don't think so.
Just the fact that, okay, first of all, they changed the rules in Georgia to where the ballots have to be counted by hand. Okay. So that means if it comes down to Georgia, we're not going to know who's president of the United States till maybe Thanksgiving. All right. And then, okay, in Nebraska, they're trying to do winner take all. They're trying to change these rules about 40 days before the election. And they're trying to sneak in all these other little things and they're only things that could benefit Donald Trump. And there's nobody there to stop him because you have a Supreme Court,
You have to tell him no.
Yeah. who's not going to tell him no. These next 40 days are going to be very interesting.
Yeah, 40 days and 40 nights.
It's not going to be pleasant.
Yeah.
I think what Macklemore has said is going to come up more than once. I don't think it's, this is just another thing. The Marcellus Williams situation in Missouri, it's going to be like, what happened there? Rest in peace to him.
Yes, it's par for the course when it's election time. Though I honestly think that even with Macklemore saying that, again, we talk about the political machine, the politics of America. They're all for Israel, but when you look at, if you get on the ground and start asking people, it's a mixed barrel of who people support and who they don't.
Right. Yeah.
When it comes to Israel and Palestine. So I don't think that this is necessarily going to cancel him. Because he's not a political artist.
No. They ain't got the
power.
What I'm
saying? He doesn't have to go perform in front of these politicians and things like that. He's going to perform in front of his fans who could care less about what the government thinks of Macklemore.
Yeah.
But
so I don't see him losing.
But the people that own the venues.
And he got dropped. He did get dropped from another festival.
Yeah, that's where the power is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so
because they don't want they don't want to touch this, even if they feel like Israel is wrong. They can't say it because they just don't. Right now, it's the same on both sides of the aisle. And it's like they're like, let's just not touch it because I don't want to deal with this right now.
Yeah.
I don't. There's if you're looking for courage for these people, you might as well forget it.
Yeah, it's not there. Yeah. Even Kamala, she's
once again like this. And
I want a ceasefire, but that's all she'll say.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I say Donald Trump has a shot because if the young people on these college campuses say, I'm not going to show up for Kamala, it's, you know, that's a big deal. So that's going to be Trump's end, is like there are people staying home. Like, people had to come out in record numbers to beat him last time. You know, and
but
there's
the
nothing.
Popular vote doesn't win the election.
Exactly. But at the same time, like, you got to realize Donald Trump received more votes in the last election than any Republican nominee for president ever.
And Joe Biden still beat him.
That means people came out. They weren't particularly on fire for Joe Biden, like I wasn't, but I was voting against Donald Trump. I'm not even gonna lie.
Well, yeah, shouts to Macklemore.
Yeah,
you know.
Shout out to this segment that'll probably be demonetized. It's all good.